While everybody was distracted with the World Economic Forum conference kicking off in Davos this week, a $937 trillion bank might have just collapsed, and a little bit of contagion is spreading to the rest of the banking system. Now, I know that sounds like a very hyperbolic statement, but we can see that the Japanese bond yields right now are going absolutely parabolic, and they're not the only bond yields blowing out. We can see government bond yields from all around the world right now are soaring as people are doing everything in their power to sell government bonds and buy real money, which is why we're seeing gold and silver going absolutely parabolic right now. But this is also why we're seeing our governments freak out and try to create a narrative to control the price of gold and silver. Have a look at this for a moment. We can see that supposedly, for the first time in 300 years, alchemy has been created, and CERN scientists have just been able to turn lead into gold. Again, why do we see this announcement, a supposed 1 in a 300-year event, come out today as gold's going absolutely parabolic and the Japanese bond market is absolutely blowing up? Coincidence? I don't think so, because 2 days ago, we saw the Bank of England release a really interesting article. We could see Bank of England must plan for a financial crisis triggered by aliens? What? So I read this for you guys the other day, and the very last sentence of this article says precious metals might lose their status as perceived safe haven assets if people speculate that new spacefaring technologies will soon increase the supply of precious metals. They're essentially saying aliens are going to increase the supply of gold and silver, so you should sell yours. Again, all of this is crazy. We've got a massive day that just unfolded in Davos for the World Economic Forum conference. Before we get to any of that news, I want to talk about this huge event that just happened in Japan. This is very important because when there is a little bit of a flu, so to say, in Japan, the rest of the world catches a cold. That's because debt and leverage has been built up through the Japanese carry trade. Let's listen to what Scott Bessent said about it today.
2 days. That would be in their... I believe the markets are going down because the Japanese bond market had a 6 standard deviation move for the past 2 days.
By the way, a 6 standard deviation day, that is a 1 in a 500 million probability. That is how rare a 6 standard deviation move is. We just saw the Japanese 10-year bond lose 10% of its value in 48 hours. I've got a chart to show you all of that in a more a little bit more on that topic in a moment. But again, 6 standard deviations, that's huge. It's ridiculous.
That would be in their 10-year bonds. I've been in touch with my economic counterparts in Japan and urged them to take the necessary measures to stabilize their bond market. But that's spilling all over into all bond markets. German yields are up, French yields are up, U.S. yields are up. Again, it's mostly the Japanese bond market, got nothing to do with Greenland.
So a lot of people are saying, okay, maybe the reason why the markets look a little bit shaky right now is because of Trump's talk of invading Greenland. I'm not so sure. Again, this is the World Economic Forum conference, Davos week, so to say. So be prepared for volatility. But this chart is kind of stunning. This is about a 20-year chart of the Japanese 10-year government bond yield. Look at it. The yields going up like this means that the price of the bond is going down. And as Scott Bessent kind of alluded to in that clip, he's urged his economic analysts and friends in Japan to brace themselves for impact. We can see Zero Hedge tweeted this out today. At least 3 banks this morning started calling for immediate yield curve control in Japan. They need rates back at zero because we can see the world is dumping government bonds in the face of huge money printing that will be spreading to the entire world. We can see this Japanese bond market sell-off. It is not isolated to just Japan. It is spreading all around the world. And I will show you one clip from Davos right now from who I think is probably one of the best investors of all time. This is Ray Dalio. Let's hear what he has to say today, live from Davos.
Fiat currencies as let's step back from the sensational and be clear about what I mean. The monetary order is breaking down. Okay. What I mean by the monetary order is that fiat currencies and debt as a storehold of wealth is not being held by central banks in the same way, and that there was a change. The biggest market to move last year was the gold market, far better than the tech markets, right, and so on. And the U.S. markets underperformed foreign markets because of the fact you could see it in the numbers of the central banks and so on. So let's just look at the fact that on the other side of trade deficits and trade wars, there are capital and capital wars. And so as we're looking at that, and you reported what the stock market and so on, but you didn't report that the gold market is also up 3.
We did say that earlier this morning.
Okay.
It's up to
but
record
I'm
levels
saying,
again. And silver.
Is you look at what is happening and why it's happening and who's buying it. So let's just take a moment on that capital war issue, okay? We know that both the holders of U.S. dollar denominated debt, which is money, and those who need it, the United States, are worried about each other, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have other countries who are holding it and they're worried about each other and we're producing a lot of it, that's a big issue, right? So you have to explain what is going on with fiat currencies, mm-hmm, generally speaking. And now if you take the conflicts, you can't ignore the possibility that capital wars, in other words, maybe there's not the same inclination to buy U.S. debt and so on. We at least need to talk about those possibilities and find out who is buying and selling what that is behind these market movements.
And what?
So I think the Davos conference generally doesn't see a lot of signal, but I think Ray Dalio brought a little bit of signal to Davos with that statement. You have to talk about fiat currency. Everything else in the world is a distraction. If your money is losing 10% of its value a year and everybody's racing for the exit doors, that's the 900-pound elephant in the room. And I think Dalio mentioned something very important that I want to break down for you guys. This is the first time in 30 years central banks have held more gold than government bonds. Again, 30 years. This is a very, very, very big move. And right now, what we're watching is some of the biggest bullion banks. These is, gold and silver banks in the world. They're significantly short silver. So here's a list of them. JP Morgan Chase used to be very short silver. A lot of the non-US banks right now are freaking out because they are short silver. Again, we are hearing rumors that there could be massive bailouts happening in the, let's call it behind closed doors. We do know for a fact that the Fed's balance sheet is now starting to expand pretty aggressively. I mean, it's expanding. It's flipped from contracting to expanding. I don't want to call it aggressive yet, because when we see the big print, that is going to be really aggressive. I think you're going to have to pin your ears back when the money printers really get moving. But we've seen, for the first time in a long time, this chart here begin to expand. This is the Federal Reserve balance sheet. I'm going to try to show you this chart that I've got. Looks like I'm filming with a potato. Look at how blurry that is. I apologize. I think the point is clear. We are seeing money printed. I've seen some people make the case that this increase we're seeing in the Fed balance sheet is actually some of the biggest bullion banks getting a little bit stressed, getting a little bit freaked out, needing to, get their hands on a little bit more liquidity so they can smack the price of gold and silver down again, as they do every Monday morning when the markets open. But it looks as if maybe this game is slowly starting to lose its effectiveness. Again, I'll remind you, a lot of people might say, Luke, that's a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. There's no way that the banks would be manipulating the price of gold and silver lower. That could never happen. This here is a little collage of the fines that JP Morgan has paid over the years. This is the biggest bank in America. You can see JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank named in money laundering report. JP Morgan settles for a $2.6 billion fine. JP Morgan settles for a $250 million fine. They have paid massive fines over and over and over again. Again, if you want to learn a little bit more about whether Wall Street could be capturing Bitcoin or whether they've fallen for the Trojan horse, this was one of the topics that I wrote about at length in my free email that I released this month. So again, if you're not subscribed, check it out. We covered everything. We looked at the correlation that we're seeing between the markets. And something really interesting I just got reminded of was gold and silver. Like we said, it is very, very rare that gold and silver doubles in a year. I have the exact statistics here in this article as well. We can see the last time silver doubled was in 270 AD. Sorry, this is when it doubled in less than 3 months. So silver just doubled in 3 months. We can see throughout history when gold and silver goes on these very parabolic, very volatile, very sharp rallies in a short amount of time, it always signals something chaotic is about to happen. Again, gold doubled in 1922 and 1923, right before that German hyperinflation event. And again, we just saw gold and silver double again this year, and everybody's looking around wondering what is going on. What is happening? People are clearly looking for the escape valve. And again, this is the World Economic Forum conference week. I don't normally talk about stuff like this, but I saw this. Thousands of people in Germany are waking up to a little bit of a cold start, no pun intended, as they are no longer allowed to use the heating in their electric cars. I know I'm not joking. This is real. The German government decided that to curb emissions, they don't want you heating up your car because that would just be bad for the environment. They would much rather prefer you freeze. I was about to say something a lot more spicy, but it's pretty clear. They want you to freeze. And this is not like this is happening. A total of 100,000 car owners affected. Help! My car's heating has been turned off. This is real. This is actually happening in Germany, a country that's supposed to be one of the most advanced economies in the world. It's wild. During an advanced economy does not protect you from the madness of a collapsing government. Again, right now, we showed you it's not just the Japanese bond yields seeing a 6 sigma standard deviation event. This is the world's bond markets. They are all blowing out. You can see the US, Britain, the EU. I want to have a look at the US bond market while I've got you guys right now. I'll pull it up while I'm showing you this next clip because, again, Germany's losing its mind, but it's not the only country losing its mind. Just enforcing some of the most ridiculous rules I've ever seen. Check this clip out.
Sued by the state for theft. Rancher. An Oregon man was convicted and sent to jail for collecting and using rainwater on his own property, sued by the state for theft. Rancher Gary Harrington built 3 large reservoirs on his own land to collect rainwater and snow melt. He claimed the water was primarily for fire protection reserves and for providing water to wildlife. But the state called it theft and prosecuted Gary. A municipal code stipulates that all water within city limits, including precipitation, is part of the public water supply. The city requested the court order the removal of his collection system and impose a fine. Despite Harrington's repeated appeals,
I mean, look at the guy. Imagine throwing this guy in jail for collecting rainwater on his own property. Look at him. He doesn't look like a criminal. He's got a button-up shirt. It's even tucked in. You would never catch me with a tucked-in button-up shirt. Oh, my Lord.
arguing, the water fell on my land. I'm not selling it. I'm simply using it on my own property. The court ultimately rejected his claims. Harrington was found guilty on multiple charges, including unlawful appropriation of state water resources. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail and fined over $1,500. The incident sparked intense backlash. Residents said it was simply tyranny. If a person cannot own the rain that falls on their own land, what do they actually own?
Well, that, my friends, is the question of 2026. If you cannot own the rainwater that lands on your own property, what do you actually own? Again, there's a reason why we make these videos nearly every day, because people are completely unaware that very respectable, clean-cut individuals are being jailed for literally just collecting rainwater on their property. Again, you can't hide anymore from these criminals. They are coming. Again, that's why I always tell you to learn more about Bitcoin. But not just Bitcoin. Learn to mine the Bitcoin so your government doesn't know you own it. Because again, if they know you own the Bitcoin, they're going to come lock you up and point a gun at you and say, sorry, it's illegal now. The same way it is, illegal to capture rainwater. It's nuts. This is why I'm a big advocate of mining Bitcoin and why I think it's better than buying it off a centralized exchange that you need to use your ID to sign up for. Again, highly recommend you book a call with the guys at Blockware. They'll teach you more about how you can start mining Bitcoin privately today and even do it in a tax advantage way. And again, what do I always say? Don't leave your Bitcoin on exchange, or God forbid, don't give it to Larry Fink, the new CEO of the World Economic Forum. I always tell you, put it in your own custody. Again, go and get a hardware wallet today to keep your Bitcoin safe. I've got links down below to Ledger and Trezor hardware wallets. I think they're the most easiest hardware wallets in the space that anybody can get started with. So check those out. And take self-custody of your Bitcoin while you can. I disagree with this take. I don't think Bitcoin's controlled by BlackRock. Yes, BlackRock owns over 4% of the total Bitcoin supply. And yes, BlackRock is probably going to come and attack Bitcoin in the not too distant future, but they're probably most likely going to fail. Okay, despite Larry Fink right now being the new co-chair of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab is no longer the co-chair of the WEF. And Larry Fink, alongside this gentleman with the bloodshot eye, are the new co-chairs of the World Economic Forum. I don't think Bitcoin's controlled by anyone because, again, Bitcoin's a decentralized system. Bitcoin's not proof of stake. Bitcoin's proof of work. Doesn't matter if BlackRock owns 3, 4, or even 10% of the supply. They can't change the protocol, which is why we're such big advocates of Bitcoin. It's a lot more immune to changes than other assets like gold and silver are. Again, the price of gold and silver goes up. Mining companies are incentivized to go out there and mine more and more gold and silver. Can't do that with Bitcoin. That's a great comment there from Baron BS Official. And again, I'm not going to talk too much about the WEF right now because I have a comprehensive deep dive coming out tomorrow morning for you guys. But all of the clips that I've seen coming out of the WEF right now, it's all on this theme here. They want you to own nothing and they want you to be happy. Okay, it's some of the things I've seen are just bananas. We've got, let's just say, I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek at what I'm going to be posting tomorrow at 6 a.m. in the morning to get ready for it. But we've got presidents of Canada openly saying, oh, yeah, we're going to have a new world order We've got Ursula von der Leyen making some really fascinating claims. We've got, of course, Klaus Schwab being replaced as the CEO of the World Economic Forum, and he's been replaced by Larry Fink. I've got clips of Larry Fink to show you. Then you've got old speed dealer over here. Oh, Emmanuel Macron. Look at the speedies on him. Look at that. Oh, it's ridiculous. He's actually wearing those sunglasses inside, making a speech at the World Economic Forum. I wish I wasn't making this up. Honestly, these guys just make our jobs easy. I won't give too much away, but let's just say these globalists are freaking out right now. Absolutely freaking out. This is why I think the slogan of the conference this year for the World Economic Forum is a spirit of dialogue. They're freaking out over disinformation and misinformation. You won't believe me unless I actually show you the receipts. But these are the biggest risks the World Economic Forum sees to the world. They just released a global risk report on Wednesday, the 14th of January. So 3 days before their conference officially kickstarted. And, you know, we're living in a pretty volatile world. We got wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, Israel, Palestine. There's conflicts everywhere. We've got America invading Venezuela. You would think that if we're talking about the biggest risks to the world, maybe global war and conflict would be number one or number two. No. Guess what's number two on this list? Again, I'll remind you, the biggest risks to the world is, look at that purple box, misinformation and disinformation. What? And societal polarization is number three. What a crock of bullshit. Don't you think this is just ridiculous? Yeah, look at this. And their 10-year biggest risk report, they're saying extreme weather events. Really? I don't trust you guys as far as I can throw you. I don't know. Again, there was a lot of Orwellian talks happening at the World Economic Forum conference over the past 48 hours. But there were some people standing up for sanity. I'm going to show you one clip from Howard Lutnick that I think hasn't gotten the attention it deserves.
It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries. Why would you do that? Why would the United States of America, which has oil and natural gas, try to convert to all electricity? China does not have oil and natural gas. Electricity and electric cars make perfect sense to them. That is practical and logical.
Who saw this guy freaking out? This must be the moderator. He's like, no, he can't be talking that much truth. Look at this guy. He's freaking out. But again, I think Howard Lutnick makes a really good point. America is going to pivot away from globalization. The BS climate narratives. Why? It doesn't make any sense that we're going hell-bent towards solar energy. It makes zero sense. It's all to enrich China. Again, I'm not going to get too conspiratorial. I'm going to keep myself reined in here. I've still got some things I want to show you guys. Don't want you clicking off the video yet. It's very clear. America is pushing back. They're saying this is BS. We are out. And again, I've been framing this bifurcation between America and Europe for like 4 years now. I think it's been clear that America's been at an economic war with Europe since 2021, when Powell raised interest rates and gave Christine Lagarde one of these, a big middle finger, and shocked her at one of those annual green climate change for central banking conferences. And Jerome Powell said, yeah, you know what? In America, we're not going to print money to save the planet like Europe wants us to do. And that shocked Christine Lagarde. We played the video a number of times on this channel. Again, if you missed it, make sure you subscribe. We got a ton of content coming this week and in 2026. So you don't want to miss it. But again, I think this battle between America and Europe, I think it's going to really start escalating now. We're seeing talks of trade boycotts. I looked at the markets this morning and they look a little bit wobbly because we've got all of this chit chat about, tariffs making a return. And I think it's only a matter of time before we see more volatility in the market. Again, what did Howard Lutnick say? Globalization is dead. That means deglobalization is coming. Deglobalization is going to be volatile. But when you think about it, I actually think it benefits America better than any other country. Europe's cooked. Europe is cooked. China is cooked. America is actually, they've got energy. We've got highly skilled workers. America has safe borders. But we can see the markets right now are probably going to try to, they're going to struggle a little bit of volatility. People, just have a look at how ridiculous that chart is for a moment. I have no idea what the markets are going to do in the short term, but what I will say to you guys right now is markets typically don't go up in a straight line. You see ups, you see downs. You see ups, you see downs. You see ups, you see downs. Again, a 6-year-old could show you this pattern. You see ups, you see downs. You see ups, downs, ups. And all I'm going to say is we haven't really seen a down in a while. The markets have actually gone straight up since last April. So what I will say is anyone out there playing fiat games, just be careful. Again, we can see the S&P 500's had a little bit of a pullback today on all of the volatility that we've seen come out, whether it's related to the World Economic Forum or whether it's related to the Japanese carry trade blowing up a little bit. I would just warn you, stay safe out there. Make sure you're not trusting Larry Fink with any of your assets. Not just the financial markets, but I do just strongly believe the world's going to get more volatile. Again, let's actually talk about the chart that I showed you a minute ago. If you've got the WEF making predictions, typically you should take their predictions at face value. They are, if you look back historically, they're pretty good at making predictions. Oh, no, my camera died. You're going to have to, well, actually, you guys might be blessed. You won't have to see my big mug for the rest of this stream. Again, to this comment, I love this comment. We are seeing the melt up. It is only going to accelerate. And I think this is just going to be how financial markets play out over the next... Well, until we see the transition, I think you're going to see the melt up continue, but be prepared for volatility to the downside and the upside. You're going to see a lot more of that. Again, what else are we seeing? What's the WEF predicting? If the WEF is predicting weather events to become more extreme, just be careful. You don't know what they're going to manufacture. You don't know what's going to happen. We saw the devastating wildfires take place in California earlier in the year. Thousands of homes destroyed. And as we can see, Forbes made an interesting case for Bitcoin here. Bitcoin owners, devastating California fires are a wake-up call. They actually tried to use these fires to scare people away from owning Bitcoin. Because again, at the time, Bitcoin was rallying into the beginning of 2025. Are you guys seeing a trend here? When an asset that they don't like rallies, they publish hit pieces on it. Like they did earlier in the week on gold, saying, oh, look, aliens are coming. The aliens might create a financial crisis and they're going to devalue gold and silver because they're going to start mining it out of the asteroids. And then in the same week, 48 hours apart, a once in a 300-year event, alchemy is found. CERN scientists have turned lead into gold. Again, they will use these narratives to spin them in whatever direction they want. So again, just be careful of these narratives. California fires are a wake-up call for Bitcoin holders. Again, what the Forbes fear peddlers forgot is that it actually doesn't matter if a wildfire hits your home. If you're backing up your Bitcoin on titanium, like you should be. Again, fires should not scare you. If you've got your Bitcoin, 12 words, that's your private keys to your Bitcoin, backed up on titanium. So again, I always encourage you guys to go get your hands on some titanium plates from Stampseed. The reason why I've been partnered with Stampseed for 2 years is they create titanium plates. Titanium is much stronger and resists much higher temperatures than stainless steel. Stainless steel is a little bit of a shitcoin, but most companies use it. I won't name names. But again, if you do want to take advantage of the titanium plates from Stampseed, right now they are running a winter sale. So if you stack the promo code Luke15 onto any product right now on the Stampseed website, you might be able to get between 20 and 30% off anything you buy. So again, the winter sale, it's only going on for a few more days, so go and take advantage of that while you can so that you don't have to worry about the devastating wildfires in California that these globalists are fear-mongering about. And here's the other thing. Uranium and Bitcoin. Something that I think doesn't get enough attention is, look, yeah, gold and silver is great, but try taking self-custody of $100,000 of silver. It's impossible. You can't do it. It weighs a ton. And the same thing with uranium. Take custody of that, or coal. I see a lot of macro experts recommend coal. It's like, what are you going to do with coal? You're going to buy an ETF that you're going to trust JP Morgan to hold for you? No. I'll hold the Bitcoin and I'll keep it in self-custody, thank you very much. How about that? How about you can shove that up the wazoo, my friends over there at the World Economic Forum. Again, I've got a lot of clips coming out of the WEF I do want to get into. I think it's insane who's the new leaders of the WEF. But again, let's stay away from conspiracy theories. It's very clear the world is trending back towards hard money because hard money is easier to custody. Again, Bitcoin self-custody, it's super easy. Again, if you are looking for, let's say, an even more secure Bitcoin setup than just simply holding Bitcoin on a single signature Bitcoin wallet, I'll invite you to check out what Bitvault has created. They create a really simple and easy to use Bitcoin storage solution. They've got a simple app, and this app lets you create a multi-signature wallet or a time-locked or a time-delayed wallet in minutes. I think it's a no-brainer, super cool, interesting concept. Again, imagine having the security of having a Bitcoin wallet that's locked for 10 minutes, 10 days, or even 10 years. You can program how long you want to lock your wallet for. And again, you can get access to the app for a whole year for 149 big ones. So take advantage of that offer while it still lasts. And again, this is why we're so bullish on Bitcoin and why we're bullish on it being a solution. I'll talk about China in a moment because, again, a lot of people are saying, oh, but China's buying gold. Guys, I'm not so... I just think there's a lot of problems with gold. There's probably more problems with gold than my third world internet. I apologize, guys. I'm doing this live stream off a hotspot right now. We just moved into a home and the Wi-Fi is trash. So apologies about that. Thank you for persevering. The video I'm going to be putting out tomorrow morning is an edited video. Won't be a live stream, so you won't have to worry about my shitty internet. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that and be very careful trusting BlackRock and Larry Fink, because Down on the Blue says BlackRock doesn't own the Bitcoin in their IBIT ETF. They manage it. That is true. But again, you have to ask permission to get the Bitcoin out of the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. So again, let's say a national security risk were to emerge, BlackRock could just say, sorry, mate. The US government's taking your Bitcoin. Here's a piece of paper. Adios. Get out of here. Get out of our face. Baron BS official. Can you give ideas how to guard the metal wallet? Absolutely, I can. Let me show you one. So I'm not going to turn on my front camera because it's horrendous. Oh, actually, let me have a crack. It's really bad, though. Can you guys see that? So this here is a titanium plate. Now, what's really cool about it is look at how thin it is. It's literally, this is a single plate. So nothing can go wrong with this. It's very hard to shoot yourself in the wazoo, so to say. And because it's a single plate, you know, I mean, you could do anything with it. You could bury it in the backyard. If you got grass in your backyard, you could put it in the roof. It's because it's so slim, it's very easy to hide. And here's the beautiful thing about the titanium plates, crush proof. It's very different with these other very complicated devices that have 20 moving parts on it that could be lost if it gets crushed. So there's a couple of ideas for metal wallets. I don't want to give away my best ideas because, well, you know, security risk. But welcome to everyone who caught the live stream. I apologize about me not having a camera and trash internet. It's one of those days. With all that said, I might end this one here and just encourage you guys to be on your guard. I'm releasing that deep dive on the World Economic Forum tomorrow. Stay tuned for that one. And I'll see you all in another live stream, possibly tomorrow afternoon.